folks, welcome back to another reading. Today I am using the Osho Zen Tarot. And I'm shuffling until Spirit tells me to stop, and we're going to listen to whatever message Spirit would like to give us today. The central theme for today, or at least the starting message, is trust. And I feel led by Spirit to perform a Celtic cross, if you will. So what we have right here is the Knight of Cups. This is someone who is willingly leaping without any strings, without a bungee cord, or without anyone backing them up, leaping off into what appears to be a sunrise. This is the universe telling us that most definitely if we take a leap of faith, it will be there to catch us. Not to say that the letting go process won't be painful for a lot of people, myself included. The process will most likely be painful. But what we're letting go of is worth letting go of. What we're welcoming in after we let go of the past is absolutely worth letting into our lives. This is our challenge card. This is the Page of Clouds. This is about our mind absolutely being a catastrophic mess and about peace needing to come to it. I cannot recommend a meditative practice enough. It is hard. I'm going to give you that as someone who has a Sun in Gemini, who has Mercury in Gemini, who has their Chiron in Gemini. I've got 3 Mercury placements. Gemini in Mercury, Gemini in, sorry. I've got quite a bit of Mercury placements. I know about think here, think there, think all over the place, okay? I get it. But I've still found a meditative practice incredibly helpful. And what this is saying right there is that our minds are the problem. Our minds get in the way of trusting the universe to take us through some really difficult times. We do need to go through the end of an era together. And if we settle our own minds, teach it not to go flying off the handle in a knee-jerk response to whatever's going on in our current environment, we'll be able to trust the universe a whole lot better than if we had just continued to try to allow our minds to take us where we need to go. Overthinking is absolutely the problem. Taking in opinions that aren't our own, not thinking for ourselves, is part of the problem right here. Even though this is a page card, a child card, if you will, make no mistake, this is hard work to overcome this particular mind noise, okay? So in the past, I see a bit of a challenge coming in the way of consciousness, of allowing our mind to take a back seat to what our hearts and intuitions lead us to see, as opposed to our minds seeing. I hope that I'm making sense. This is a challenge. I don't feel like we've reached to this point as a collective. Most definitely not. And I don't know that that's ever possible for a collective to reach consciousness. I don't know that it is. For an individual, absolutely. For a small group of people, absolutely. But I don't think that we've gotten there. But we're definitely being called to that. We've been getting calls pretty consistently from the universe to come into our own consciousness. But the challenge, once again, is that the world makes it a very noisy place to exist. And a lot of people, myself included, for us, it's a lot easier to just get sucked under and to allow our minds to go haywire with all the possibilities that could happen in the future, thinking about what happened in the past, thinking about what you want to do, what I want to do today. This applies to everyone here. Everyone could get better when it comes to how they reach a state of consciousness. Simply observing the universe, observing your own thoughts, not taking action necessarily when your knee-jerk reaction commands you to do so. Sometimes it's a great idea to avoid obeying that knee-jerk reaction and simply observe. Take the ego out of the scenario. This is not something that we've conquered. And I think that's part of why we're pulling up this card as a challenge here. Something for us all to work on. Consciously, we need to come into a state of silence. This is normally the Moon card. And by the way, this is normally the Ace of Swords card. Okay? With the Moon card, that's just about observing. Once again, it's something that we're not very good at doing. We much prefer to quickly take in visual stimuli or auditory stimuli or whatever have you, and we translate that into, I need to respond this particular way. But our responses, our reactions are often conditioned by what society, what our world wants us to be conditioned as, and that's its own kind of illness, a societal illness, if you will. Observing in silence what's going on in your mind, what's going on outside yourself is key to coming into a place where you can learn to trust the universe. This is a hard lesson to come into, even though it's the Knight of Cups, not like the King or the Queen of Cups, for instance. This is still a hard step to take, is trusting the universe to bear us through these next at least few decades, okay? We've got consequences coming out in the future that are going to demand our trust in the universe and the silence of our minds, of our overthinking, overwrought, overstimulated minds. Traditionally, this is the Devil card. This is the conditioning card, and it's a little bit different than the Devil, but in the sense that an individual is bound to an image, it is absolutely the Devil. This is a lion, but he's wearing a sheep skin because he wants to blend in with the crowd. He thinks he's a sheep. He's not trying to eat the sheep. He thinks he's one of them. This is conditioning. I'm part of these people. Your universe, your world, I should say, not universe at all. Your world, the illness in this world, has conditioned us, all of us, myself included, into believing that an overactive mind, in fact, a brain that's going into overdrive, trying to think of all the possibilities and all the different routes and all the different things that we should do, the universe says that that's a good thing, and this is something to be conditioned out of, to let go of the idea that you're a sheep who just flows downstream with the other sheep, if that makes sense. Goes with the flow with the other sheep. None of us are really sheep. If they were to take off their own maskings, if you will, their own sheep maskings, they would discover that they are their own different types of animals. Maybe an elephant, maybe a capybara. Doesn't matter. At the end of the day, maybe only one of those people, maybe a few of those people are sheep, actually. The rest are just trying to blend in. The sheep can be themselves if they are truly themselves. But the lesson here is to not try to blend in anymore. That is the old era. And by allowing our minds to try to force us to fit into society's mold, society's understanding of us, we stay chained to an idea that isn't us. This is in the future. No thingness. This is not something to be afraid of at all. Traditionally, this is the Hierophant card. This is about the space before something is created. If we can take the challenge coin, seen in the Ace of Swords, or the Ace of Clouds in this case, if we can rise to the occasion, rise to the calls the universe is sending out to us, be different, think differently, speak differently, be a different person, grow into your best and your highest good. Conquer your mind when it tells you to be overstimulated, that it's the right thing to be overstimulated. Then we can create from a place of deep silence. The silence is not something to be afraid of at all. From silence comes something new that must be created. The universe wants to level us up. The source, our guides, our ancestors, our deities, want us to level up into something wholly different as a community, as a collective. And there's going to be some work that we need to do to get there. This is not something to be afraid of. This is the birth, the creation of something new and really, really cool if we're willing to do the hard work of releasing our mind. We don't have to think this way. We don't have to blend in with society and think frantically towards what could happen in the future. We do have rough times ahead, make no mistake, but we don't have to internalize the conflict, the terror. We can ground ourselves no matter what happens, and we can heal ourselves in that particular way. And when more people heal themselves, they'll feel released from the bonds that have kept them chained to this idea that I need to be this in order for society to accept me. Very deep thinking needs to happen here. This is advice to let go of fantasies that no longer serve us, to let go of the idea that somebody else is going to take care of our emotions, of us. In a sense, we do need to come together as a community. That's where the strength lies. But you owe it to yourself to let go of any fantasies that keep you separated from who you're supposed to become. If there's this fantasy of everything's going to be not rough in the future, that needs to be let go of, as hard as it may be. You may have some fantasies of somebody rescuing you, taking you out of this particular scenario, when that isn't realistic at all. Once again, we have rough times up ahead. I've been talking about this on my channel now since July of 2024. We are the ones. We, the individual. Change starts from the grassroots and comes upward, right? The change starts with us, the individual. Nobody can tell us what to think. Nobody can tell us what to feel, ultimately. It will feel hollow. If we're using external sources to make us feel happy, we are never going to be happy. And that goes for relationships, family, friendships, romantic. That goes for work. That goes for hobbies. That goes for the things that we use to escape whatever pain we're trying to escape from. This is a fantasy that we must release. And that might be part of what's going on right here, the challenge. If I can just have blah, blah, blah. If I can just get to blah, blah, blah. Fill in the blank, okay? It starts with you. You need to focus on yourself and not the projections that you think that other people feel like you should have. That's not going to benefit you in this new era. We moved into Pluto in Aquarius on November 19th, 2024. It's a whole new year, or a whole new era. There's nobody alive who saw the last Pluto in Aquarius. There's no one to say, oh, well, when this happened, I did this. There's none of that. We are charting our own course here. And letting go of fantasies, letting go of group conditioning is how we're going to trust the universe to take us to a whole new era where healing can actually begin, where spiritual up-leveling can actually begin. Well, this is the current environment, and I bet you can already guess, if you have any understanding of tarot at all, that this is the Tower. Thunderbolt. The end of an era. An external source says enough is enough. and the tower must come crumbling down. This is unexpected. This is absolutely the tower that we've all come to expect it to be. It's a revelation. It's an epiphany. It's the end to a way of living. We cannot live the old way anymore. The universe is forcing us out of our comfort zone. And part of the dream, the fantasy, is that the idea that everything's going to be okay. Speaking roughly, not everyone's going to get through this era, if we're being utterly honest. And letting go of the idea that everything's going to be business as usual is one of the first steps to letting go of fantasies that no longer serves us. This is about coming into a new level of emotional, spiritual, and mental maturity. And we have to be there in order to let go of the overthinking, in order to learn to let go completely and trust the universe to take us where it is that we need to go. That pink in the corner is meant to, I'm getting the word solidify. This is a solid future. Solidify your trust in the universe. Not saying that it won't be hard. It will be. But the Knight of Cups is all about exploring new ways of feeling. And when you let go of fantasies that no longer serve you, when you let go of societal conditioning that has only harmed you and has kept you in a box that you don't deserve to be in, that's when you can go blazing forward into a bright new emotional future. But first you have to see it that way and not see it as something to be afraid of. This is going to be scary, and it's going to be rough and uncomfortable. All of the above, but even so, the universe still has your back and still wants to support you. Let's go back to the moon card right here. In the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith, that's a full moon being depicted in that particular card. That's not a new moon. And what I mean by that is, with a full moon, things are decently lit, especially during a bright supermoon, like that appears to be in that particular card. You can use a flashlight to illuminate shadows and that kind of thing, but otherwise the moon does a pretty damn good job of illuminating everything. And that's the idea that you're supposed to get here. With the new moon, you wouldn't have any light. With the full moon, with a bright, full supermoon, you do. You have the universe supporting you, lighting your way, even when things are darker than they would be in the day. They're still supporting you, and you need to see it that way first. I'm getting a whole lot of dismay about how there doesn't seem to be anybody pumping the brakes on what's gone on with the United States election. There doesn't seem to be any, and keep in mind it's Pluto in Aquarius. Anything can happen any particular day. Black swan events are going to become more frequent, I suspect, okay, or what people think to be black swan events. Those are going to become more frequent. You don't have to let your mind run away with all the possibilities of what could happen in the future, what could happen to you or your family, and your loved ones as well. You don't have to worry about that. You have to trust that your guides, your ancestors, your deities, the universe will lead you exactly to where you need to be at the right time. And that means needing to let go, once again, of overthinking. This is the challenge, and it's going to be a huge challenge for people like me, for earthy signs who really, really hate change. This is going to suck, potentially, for a lot of folks, is having to completely change the way you think. The way that your mind runs out of control when it sees things to be afraid of is something you're going to need to learn to harness. You're going to need to learn to ground. A meditation practice is absolutely key. You need to get started on this. Absolutely. I find the Insight app, Insight Timer app, to be wonderful. I use it. I use it every day. This is not paid. It's not promotional. They don't know that I exist, okay? But I find it to be fantastically helpful, and I'm just using the free version. Okay? Please get into a meditation practice. Hopes and your fears. This is a fear about, am I a moral person in the eyes of my society? We're coming back to this conditioning thing. Fuck what society has to say about you, who you genuinely are. The Osho Zen Tarot talks about each individual being their own work of art, and our lifetime should be spent towards realizing what a natural work of art we are, flaws and all, okay? That doesn't mean that we give permission for our flaws to run haywire by any means. It means that we need to learn to appreciate the bigger picture of ourselves, that we need to recognize that we were born works of art, and that works of art don't fit into boxy squares, as you can see, neat, orderly stuff. Not even if you're like the earthiest sign ever who loves order and likes staying in order. Even then, there's some spontaneity to you. There's some chaotic, creative, chaotic good energy within you that needs to be sheltered, protected, nourished, and grown into something that, being a moral, societally acceptable person, that's not going to work. You need to break free of this. You need to let go of that particular fear. And I respect that for a lot of people, that's going to be a challenge and a half. This is the Queen of Clouds, okay? Afraid of popping out. You need to do this nonetheless. This is not a feeling person at all. Most of their face is not visible. At any point, that mouth can open and spew out hateful, awful things. And you need to remember that quite possibly that individual, this entity, might be within you. You might be saying, internalizing the things that society says that you should be, and using that to shit on yourself. Society's illness does not serve you. You need to release it and take the opportunity that the universe has been offering you all along to become conscious of yourself, become conscious of your thoughts, how you operate within society, and what your role is and what it doesn't need to be. Conditioning is your enemy right here, and it gives you the potential, societal conditioning gives you the potential to be your own worst enemy. Look at this. This is the Page of Rainbows. This is a cool way to end things, in my opinion. So this is the outcome. What I do with Celtic crosses is that I take the advice card, the future card, and the outcome card. If we let go of the fantasy and we allow for that creative blankness that heralds the beginning of something new, then we'll actually have something really, really cool and new. I'm not saying that it won't be hard, very, very clearly. We have our work cut out for us. I'm including myself in there. But this is absolutely an adventure worth having. The universe wants to take us to whole new things that humanity has never gotten to see because they were in a different place at a different time. There were different circumstances, and we are in these circumstances. We have incredible potential to welcome in something new and incredible. The question is it going to start with you? If you want to see change in the world, it has to start with you. Okay? More of this, less of this. Less of the mind, more of the trust. It will feel foolish at times. You are most likely going to ask yourself, what the fuck am I doing? This doesn't make sense. And this is your conditioning, your societal conditioning speaking out. This is your mind speaking out. This is the morality card speaking out. What the fuck am I doing? That's the world saying, don't make a change. Don't reach your best and your highest good. I hope that you have a good day. Thank you for listening. If you got to this particular point, take care.